Mama Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dandavat pranams to all the assembled Vaishnavas. We are continuing with our study, reading, discussion of Śrī Upadeśāmṛta by Srila Rupa Goswami, with commentary of our Param Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti-Raksha Sridhardev Goswami Maharaj. And so we have come to verse number 4. And as we have been mentioning, right, in this book, Rupa Goswami is giving this very helpful style of conveying instruction, utilizing lists, right? It's a nice way for us to absorb things, right? Break things down. And so the first verse, we had the 6 urges. The second verse, 6 unfavorable qualities for devotional life. Third verse, 6 favorable qualities for devotional life. And now, in this 4th verse, Srila Rupa Goswami is discussing these 6 loving exchanges, right? And these are exchanges that can be had in any walk of life, right? Amongst, any type of, relationship, material or spiritual, right? And the point is that these are intimate ways in which we can associate with the Vaishnavas, right? It kind of gives us a more specific way by which we can think about how we associate with the Vaishnavas. And it's also, gives some guideline, right, that we want to, as far as possible, try, because these are describing, very intimate, loving ways of exchanging with others. It's something that, as far as possible, we try to reserve for our exchanges with those who are cultivating the same ideal of life. Because in these types of exchanges, it's not just a material exchange, but there's an exchange of energy, right? And so this type of exchange of energy, as far as possible, we try to keep it amongst those who are cultivating the same ideals that we are, right? Otherwise, we will be receiving and collecting energy that may not be helpful for us, right? So here we are, Dadati, Pratigranati, Guyam Agyati, Prichati, Bhunkte Bojayate Chaiva, Shadvidam Pritilakshanam. Oh, I forgot what I was trying to go to before that. Yeah, I mean, one thing that's very nice about this verse is that it's, as I said, it's giving kind of a more specific conception of what association means. Because we always hear, right, association, association, association. But then what does that actually mean? How does that play out? Does it just mean, for example, sitting in a class and hearing a lecture, right? And I say this because there was this one, it's published actually, and I think it's in Sermons Volume 2, where someone is asking Srila Sridhar Maharaj, what is the most valuable principle for our spiritual life? Oh wait, how did the conversation go exactly? Trying to think of how it played out exactly. Okay, I think this was it, that someone asked Srila Sridhar Maharaj, what is the most important principle that will help us to make the most progress, right? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj then responded by quoting many verses about the importance of association. And then Srila Sridhar Maharaj asked that devotee, do you understand now? And the devotee said, yes, you're saying that association is the most valuable thing for us. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, but that is not quite up to the mark, and meaning that that's like a general idea. And then he quoted this verse, right? Meaning that we don't just want general, vague association, but we want, as far as possible, to develop loving, intimate, close association with Vaishnavas, right? Where it's not just like a you know, oh, we all gather in the temple, we have this formal program, and we do service together in a formal way. You know, that's only going to take us so far. But we want to, as far as possible, enter into loving, close connection with devotees, sharing our heart with them, right, in an intimate way, being corrected by them, revealing our heart, hearing their heart, you know, expressing our appreciation through offerings, you know, through gifts, through food. And in this way, the association will become deeper, right? Have deeper roots, right? And can affect us, purify us in a more meaningful way, right? So that I wonder if maybe I can actually try and bring that up right now. It's very nice. Okay, I'm on a Macintosh right now. Oh, Krishna search is already open. Let's see if I can find that. I think this is it, Sermons Volume 3. Here it is. Oh, wow, I actually remembered Śrīla Śrīla Maharaj's sentence exactly. I didn't think I had it right. Let's see. So, yeah, so the devotee asked about the best way to make advancement. Then Śrīla Śrīla Maharaj quotes all these verses about sadhu sangha. Then he says, Śrīla Śrīla Maharaj says, do you have your answer? Then the devotee responds, yes, the most effective means of attaining Krishna consciousness is to associate with the exalted devotees of Lord Krishna, sadhu sangha. Srila Guru Maharaj, what does it mean to keep company and to have association with the sadhus? What have you understood to be sangha? Right? It's a very nice point, because we say sadhu sangha, but what does that actually mean? Right? There's another place Śrīla Śrīla Maharaj says to bathe in the to have our consciousness bathed in the purifying conception of our gurus, right? Like that is real. We hear bathing in the foot dust of the Vaishnavas, but what does that actually mean? You know, that we are purifying our consciousness by embracing the conception of Guru and Vaishnava, right? That's what real association means. That is what bathing in the foot dust of our Guru means, right? Then the devotee, so Śrīla Śrīla Maharaj says, what have you understood to be Sangha? Oh, can you see my screen maybe? Can you see what I'm reading from right now? Or you only see Upadeśāmṛta maybe? Sure.
Just Upa right now.
What did you say?
We only see Upa.
You only see, okay. It's specifically Upadeśāmṛta. Okay. Okay, yeah, then it's set up in a different way, okay. Then the devotee, so Śrīla Śrīla Maharaj says, what have you understood to be Sangha? Then the devotee responds, Padi Prashnena Sevaya, quoting from this Bhagavad Gita verse, by relevant inquiry from a real guru and by serving him. Śrīla Guru Maharaj, yes, but that is not up to the mark. See, this is what I love about hearing from Śrīla Śrīla Maharaj, hearing from Śrīla Govinda Maharaj. Like, they're just so revolutionary. Like, you know, like only Śrīla Śrīla Maharaj, like, you know, someone can quote some really high conception and Śrīla Śrīla Maharaj will say, this is like elementary. You know, this is the beginner level, right? He's speaking from such a high plane, right? And so here, the devotee is saying, you know, by serving Guru, by inquiring from Guru, this is association. I mean, anyone else you ask will say, yes, full marks. But Śrīla Śrīla Maharaj says that is not up to the mark. And then he says, sadhu sangha means it must be of this nature. And then he quotes this verse, verse 4 of Upadeśāmṛta, Dadati pratigranati guyam agyati prichati. So meaning that we're actually entering into a close, intimate connection with Guru and Vaishnava, right? Where we're really sharing our heart with them. And there's another beautiful line of Śrī Śrī Maharaj, let the Vaishnava enter the workshop of our heart. Let the Vaishnava enter the workshop of our heart. This is what it means to have association, right? This is what it means to have association. Because otherwise, if we just have a superficial conception of what association is, you know, there's no space for the grime, for the crust, the knots on our heart to be cleared, right? We go, you know, we go to the temple, we hear the class, you know, we wash some dishes, or we have some seva, you know, whatever it is that we do, you know. Now, there's a line in Chaitanya Charitamrita saying, you know, one can chant the holy name for many lifetimes, and they will not get Krishna prema. Oh, Kirtida, no, it's my fault. I announced the meeting so late. You know, everything's just so busy here in Navadvip. So I'm getting very late with everything. So it's my fault. I'm sorry I announced the meeting so late. What was I saying? Oh, I forgot what I was saying now. Yeah, it would just be something superficial, right? But if we really want that crust on our heart, the knots on our heart, vidyate hridaya grantis, the knots on our heart to be cleared, then we need to make ourselves vulnerable. To use like modern lingo, we have to make ourselves vulnerable in front of the Vaishnava, right? And now I'm reminded too of that beautiful statement of Śrī Śrī Maharaj. She's referencing the Braja Gopis and that Leela when they have to go naked in front of Krishna. Krishna steals their clothes, right? Like what's like the symbolism there for us, right? In Śrī Śrī Maharaj, she says we have to be naked in front of our Lord, right? Nothing to hide. We are raw. We are vulnerable, right? So if there is a Vaishnava in our life with whom we can have that type of exchange, we're very blessed. We are very blessed. And if we don't have that, you know, we can try to find that or pray for that. We can pray for that. So. And we didn't actually read the translation. Wait, let me go back to our Zoom screen here. So giving, what are these 6 loving exchanges? Dadati, Prati Granati, giving and accepting gifts, right? To offer gifts, to receive the gifts, to have this type of loving exchange. Discussing and inquiring about confidential matters, right? So to reveal our heart and confidence to the Vaishnava, and to also hear them and to receive their holy instruction, right? Because ideally, this type of exchange will be with a Vaishnava who is somewhat more advanced than ourselves. They may not be on, you know, highest level, but at least a little more advanced. We can learn something from them, right? So we will, you know, express our doubts or our challenges confidentially, and then we will hear their advice confidentially. And it may be vice versa also, that we may be in a position to give advice, encouragement to others who are revealing their hearts in confidence. Then giving and partaking of foods, right? The exchange of prasadam. This is also, you know, very wonderful Vaishnava practice. So these are the 6 characteristics of affection. And let's find Śrī Śrī Maharaj's commentary on this. Wait, let me see if I can find it here. Oh, it's not coming up. Okay, maybe a Bhima, can you tell me which page to go to for Śrī Śrī Maharaj's commentary?
Like 92, Vishaka, down the road.
92, okay. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Okay. Here we are. And I think some of this is from that section in Sermons Volume 3 that we just read from a few minutes ago. So, how can we become intimate with the sadhu? We can increase our attraction and love for a sadhu by give and take. Dadati pratigranati. We can give the sadhu raw ingredients for their service and accept their prasadam. We can give items to be utilized by the sadhu and accept whatever is necessary for ourselves. Tvayopa bhukta shagganda vaso lankara charchitaha uchishta bojino dasas tava mayam jaimahi. We won't try to take anything new for ourselves. We will wish only for things that have been given up by Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas. Garlands, scents, clothes, decorations, or whatever. We will always try to use the remnants of the Vaishnavas. We will not try to utilize anything new. So, dadati pratigranati. We will present new things to the sadhus and try to live by the remnants they leave, their prasadam. And and this is, we can also consider here, right, that this is actually which Śrī Śrī Maharaj is indicating here. It is a whole spirit of living, right? To live on the prasad of the Vaishnavas, right? Prasada means grace, right? So it is not just, it's not only referring to food, right? But it is a whole spirit of living that, like the chatak bird. This is what Śrī Śrī Maharaj is describing here. Like, we are aspiring for the grace of the Vaishnavas. We are trying to see everything like that. We won't rush into taking things for ourselves or doing things for ourselves or making things happen, but we're trying to see what is the Lord's will. How will things come? How will things manifest as His grace in our lives, right? And then whatever is coming into our life, we will try to see that as the Lord's prasad, right? So we don't want to, this is the thing, right? We don't want to live in the realm of karma, right? Karma means that we are projecting our own conception upon the environment, and we are creating waves in the environment. But bhakti means that you're living in harmony with the fundamental flow of reality, right? You're not pushing against the current of reality as it is, but you're living in harmony with that. And so this is also connected with the spirit of living on prasad, right? Living on grace, where and also, Srila Gurudev, he liked this principle of wait and see, right? Wait and see. Then sahasa vidadi tana kriyam. I think that was the phrase that he would quote. He had it up in his room. Not to rush into anything, right? But you're trying to see what is the Lord's will. How will things manifest as His grace in our lives, right? We're not trying to create more karma for ourselves or generate some artificial thing within the environment, but we want to live on the waves of the Lord's grace and to see. And that involves some waiting and seeing, trying to read which way that flow is coming. So it is a whole way of living, trying to live on grace, to live on prasad. So, let's see. We will always try to use the remnants of the Vaishnavas. We will not try to utilize anything new. So, dadati pratigranati. We will present new things to the sadhus and try to live by the remnants they leave, their prasadam. Then the next point, guyam akyati. Whatever be the innermost feelings of our hearts, we should divulge them to the sadhu. I feel so many things within me. Are these feelings good or bad? And if bad, what is the remedy? We shall place our feelings before him, so he may examine them and then go on accordingly. Prichati, we shall inquire from the sadhu, what is the secret of your holy life? Please tell me. I shall try to utilize it myself. How can I get out of my present circumstances? In your case, how did you try? Here, my feeling is now such and such. What is necessary for me? What is good for me in this stage? Please advise me. We shall try to collect the secrets of the sadhu's success in life. Bhunkte bhojayate chaiva. We shall feed the sadhu and accept the prasadam. Whatever is necessary for the sadhu to maintain their life, we will supply that and then continue our own life with their remnants. In this way, we can come closer to the sadhu by both internal and external give and take. We supply the sadhu with raw materials and ready-made things, and we take from the sadhu higher things. In this way, we can improve our position, whatever it may be. And, we can mention here as a side note that in the early days here in Śrī Chaitanya Saraswati Math, this style of living was very strictly observed. I've heard that the residents of the Math, even if they needed a toothbrush, they would go to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Anyone who joins the Math, any money they had, they would give everything, right? No one would keep personal bank accounts, personal money. They would offer everything to Param Guru Maharaj, and anything they needed, clothing, medicine, they would go to Guru Maharaj. That's how they would live, right? And that is the perfect principle of life, right? Everything we have, we offer that to the Lord, to the Vaishnavas, and then we're living on what they give as grace, right? And of course, for most of us, especially in this modern age, it's not practical to live like that, but we can appreciate such an ideal of life, such a model of life. We can appreciate that and cherish that in our hearts. Shadvidam priti lakshanam. If we associate in these 6 ways with a bad man, we will become bad. And if we associate with a good man, we will become good. In a lake, there may be 2 types of water. Nazar, welcome. Anantashesh, welcome. Kirtida. So if we associate in these 6 ways with a bad man, we will become bad. And if we associate with a good man, we will become good. Right? So with whomever we closely associate, we will naturally take on their qualities. Right? There's this one shloka which our Gurudev liked very much. He heard from Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and the shloka, some of you will remember hearing that from Gurudev. It's a shloka about these 2 brother parrots. Bimal Prabhu, you probably remember that story. And one parrot went to live with like a sadhu and acquired very, saintly characteristics. And the other parrot went to live with a very like rough, nasty, low-class kind of person. And so that parrot acquired those characteristics. And then there was some incident, I think it was with Narada Muni. Narada Muni, the tradition in India, right? The sadhus, they're traveling, and grihastas are taking care of them along their travels. And so Narada Muni stops at the home of the sadhu, right? And then the parrot's there by the door, and he, speaks very respectfully, very kindly to him, receives him, and then Narada Muni visits the other home, and the parrot is very nasty, very rude, And then there's this shloka saying, right, these two birds, they are brothers, right? But then one's living with the sadhu, one is living with the ruffian, and they're acquiring those characteristics, right? So it is a very, simple story, but it is illustrating, right, this principle. Simple but powerful principle of life. And so we have to consider, right, with whom we are associating closely in our lives, right? And of course, there may be social circumstances, right, like at work or in the educational system, we have to associate in these ways with some people who we don't have too much appreciation for. But, we can do that in a, as a matter of duty, and we keep in our heart, right, with, who is really close to us, right? Association is something that takes place on a conscious level, right? But still, we try to be careful, right? Because as I said in the beginning, right, there's an exchange of energy, right? If you're eating food that's cooked from someone with a lower consciousness, then that will also come to you, right? One interesting comment our Gurudev made once, he said, like, if there's an exchange of money, then that will nullify the karma, right? So like, if you go to a shop and, you're traveling, you need some food, you buy something on the way, because there's a monetary exchange, and it's like the exchange becomes neutralized, and you're not, of course, there must still be some lower energy you're taking, depending on your own consciousness as well, right? There are so many different factors. But generally speaking, there's a nullification of the negative karma, negative consciousness when you're giving money, right? But if you're exchanging like in a very loving and affectionate way with someone who is of a very low consciousness, then you're making yourself more vulnerable to take that negative energy on yourself, right? So it is something to consider, right? How much we can digest. We can think of it in that way. How much can we digest, right? If we are associating closely with persons of a much lower consciousness, then we will have to absorb that. We will have to digest that. Do we have that type of digestion power? Like Lord Shiva, right? Lord Shiva can digest anything. Lord Shiva can digest poison from the ocean of milk, right? But we're not all Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva can associate with ghosts and goblins and all these beings, right? But we're not Lord Shiva. Nityananda Prabhu, he can approach Jagai and Madai, drunkards in the street. He can convert them, right? But we don't have that type of power. We're not Maha Bhagavad Vaishnavas. So we're a little careful. And we can also observe within ourselves, right? How we may change, right? According to the association we are in, right? When we're in this type of company, how does our behavior change? How does our mood change, right? How do we feel after that, right? If we watch one type of movie, how do we feel? Watch another type of movie, how do we feel? When we engage in Harinam Sankirtan, how do we feel, right? We feel the shift, and we feel the change in our consciousness. And so as far as possible, we're trying to live in that association, which is bringing our consciousness up, right? So in a lake, there may be two types of water, filtered and filthy. Such waters come and go from a lake, and filthy water can be purified. Similarly, the higher sadhus can take evil thoughts from others without becoming contaminated, because in their hearts resides Govinda, and any quantity of filth can be consumed by him, the infinite, Sri Krishna. So it comes back to that digestion power, right? The sadhus, they can digest anything. There are so many sadhus, right, in quotes, who take the dress of a sadhu, but only deal with mundane affairs. Take this medicine to remove this disease. Or you are suffering from the attack of a bad planet. I will give you a kavacha to change it. In this way, many take the robes of a sadhu, but engage only in mundane achievements. They are not a sadhu proper. Sadhu means sat, and sat means that which is eternal. A sadhu is one who is after eternity, who lives in eternity, Vaikuntha. Samsaresmin kshanardopi satsanga shevadirnyanam, Srimad Bhagavatam. To get the association of a real sadhu for even a moment may turn the direction of one's life. Shevadi. It is a very, very valuable gem, the most valuable help we can get. What he gives us is far more valuable than anything in this world. Everything here is mortal. Gems, diamonds, money, kingdoms, these things have no real value at all. They may be valuable within a particular class of human thought, but they have no value to a sadhu. There are so many things in the creation, but they are nothing to the sadhu because they have no general value. Happiness, joy, beauty, sweetness, these have general value. They are necessary even for the trees, even for the creepers, even for the stones. In whatever position the seeker may be, if they get that, they will be highly satisfied. So happiness is something of general value. Even, it's very nice. You can think of this as like the gold standard, right? Gold is valuable for everyone. It's not a local currency like, dollars, rupees, yen, and so on. You cannot spend pounds in Japan. You cannot spend rupees in America. You cannot spend dollars in Africa, right? But gold is useful everywhere. Gold is useful everywhere. So these things, right? Happiness, joy, beauty, sweetness. These are universal points of value. Money is not, if you are dying, right? The Śrī Maharshi tells one story of a general, right, dying on a battlefield, and he's surrounded by so many people. He's a great honored general. Oh, what can we do for you, right? What's your dying request? I just want a glass of water. I would just love a glass of water right now. What would be the use of so many kingdoms or piles of jewels, right? Just simple glass of water becomes so precious, right? So what is the gift of our gurus, right? What is the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? That which is related to our eternal life, right? The true sadhus, they are dealing with that. The eternal side of things, those things which are universally desirable and useful and relevant, right? The real sadhus, they are concerned with those things. So in whatever position the seeker may be, if they get that, they will be highly satisfied. So happiness is something of general value. Yasmin prapte sarvam idam praptam bhavati. Seek that upon attaining which everything is attained. Yam labdva shaparam labam manyate nadikam tata. Bhagavad Gita. If we get a little of that, we think that no other thing can satisfy us. This is the thing for which we have been striving for so many lives. We now have found the object of our search. We can only get higher things, however, through the connection of service, right? So this is a very, I like this point very much, because it's just common sense, right? And this also brings us to remembrance of Satan, right? Milton's Paradise Lost, to reign in hell or to serve in heaven. This is the crux of the matter. Right? This is what it all comes, everything comes down to this, To reign in hell or to serve in heaven. All comes down to that. And it's just common sense. And this is what Śrī Śrī Maharaj is mentioning here. If we want to connect with a higher plane, necessarily it has to be through a spirit of serving. Because you're something high, it's something higher than you. You can't master, you cannot control something higher than you. You can only control something lower than you. So if you want to contact something higher, it has to be in that mood of surrender, service, submission. That I am of a lower substance, right? I am of a lower plane, and I am revering that which is above me. It must be like that, right? That you can be a student in the highest educational institution, right? Or you can be a teacher of the lowest class in the lowest school, right? What is it that you want? Do you want to be a student in a higher plane, or you want to be a master in a lower plane? It all comes down to that point, right? So if we sincerely want higher things in our lives, right, we have to move with that spirit of surrender, self-giving. We can only get higher things through the connection of service, by offering ourselves. We have come to the association of things of lower nature, but if we want the association of things of higher type, then we must offer ourselves into the service of those things. We must always keep this broad thought in mind. Higher things cannot be utilized like servants for ourselves. We have to offer to be a servant of the sadhu if we really want his association. Only through service can we be connected with him. For his interest, we shall have to work. His interest is more valuable than ours. He is living a higher life. So, what is sadhu sangha? Sadhu means one who is higher, of superior quality, and sangha means seva, service. Does sadhu sangha mean only to keep bodies together? No, the association of the higher is possible only through a serving attitude, not by any opposite dealings or idle sitting. Lower association means exploitation, enjoyment, and to sit idle is still enjoyment. So to sit, I've started to notice Śrī Śrī Maharaj often, when he's referring to the spirit of renunciation, he simply says to sit idle. So meaning like laziness. That's where renunciation comes to for him. Why? Because there's no active service desire or service engagement for the Lord. So it's a type of idleness, a type of laziness from Śrī Śrī Maharaj's like high perspective. So this is also a type of enjoyment. So from this higher perspective, renunciation is also a type of enjoyment and exploitation. You're simply indulging another aspect of more subtle selfish desire, right? That's what it comes down to, bhukti and mukti. There are actually two types of exploitation, spiritual exploitation and material exploitation, but it's all exploitation from a higher angle of vision. Interesting point, huh? To associate with the higher, there must be a serving link. And thereby our quality of service can increase. Sorry, there's a lot of movement. There's still arriving devotees and rooms changing. And so lots of movement right now. To associate with the higher, there must be a serving link, and thereby our quality of service can increase. Tate Krishna Bhaje Kore Gurur Sevan, Maya Jal Chute Pai Krishna Charam. Those who worship Krishna and render service to Sri Guru escape the net of Maya and reach Krishna's feet. Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Seva is most important. Sri Gaudiya Math gives stress here on Sadhu Sangha, service to the sadhu. Whatever we do by his commands will surely connect us with the higher conception of the Absolute. And whatever we do will be in his connection if it is ordered by him. I have experience of this. Once Srila Prabhupada asked me, what is service? And what is karma? And by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Sridhar Maharaj means Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, right? The original Prabhupada can say. So what is service and what is karma? To give me an impression, he said, if the sadhu has ordered, bring a flower, and you bring him a flower, but he then says, no, bring water, and you say, no, you have already ordered this flower. Right, so if the sadhu changes his mind, right? First he asked for a flower, then he says, no, actually I want water. So then if you say, no, you have already ordered this flower, please accept it, then that will be karma. To thrust on him his previous desire is karma. The sadhu is free to say something at one moment and a little later reject that and order another thing. To follow the past is karma. We must always be expectant of the immediate need to see what that is. If the general on a battlefield orders the army march this way, but then sees through a telescope that circumstances have changed and orders, no, go that way, then it will not do to say, oh no, you have already ordered us to go this way. And this is a very interesting point. That's something that sometimes I think about, because in one way you could say there are two types of practitioners. There are those who are like, kind of like going through the motions, you know, following in somewhat of a ritualistic way. And then there are those who have more of a conception of, you know, the dynamic expression, the dynamic movement of the devotional service world, right? Two different approaches. You know, we have these terms, Saragrahi and well, what's the other one? Saragrahi and Bimal, you remember I can't remember the other one. The Saragrahi means, we hear this, right? Two types of practitioners. Saragrahi means literally who accepts the essence, right? And then the other one means load carrier, but begins with a B, but I can't remember. I don't know if anyone here can remember that expression.
Bhavagrahi.
What is it? Can you write it in the chat?
Bhavagrahi.
That sounds right. Can you write it in the chat, Prabhu? Or if you can, maybe if you're on your phone, it's a bit hard. Bharavahi, is it? Bharavahi, is that right? Something like that.
No, Bhavagrahi.
No, you're thinking of something else. Bhavagrahi Janardana. That's another expression. No. Yeah, no, this is something else. Saragrahi. But anyway, these two types of practitioners, right? Who is taking the essence, right? Who's following Paramahamsa Dharma, extracting the essence, seeing the essence of every situation. And then those who are more attracted to the external aspect of things, right? So we're trying to connect with that living expression, right? The living aspect, trying to see what is the essential aspect of everything, right? And then that involves having this dynamic view of things and to see how things are changing and to not be fixed on one particular way or one particular perspective, but to see the living and dynamic need and movement of service life. Gurudev, the sadhu, is always free. His order should be taken in that way. It is not that I must stick to what he said first. The necessity is living and independent. Once a German disciple of our Guru Maharaj said, I want to know where the programs will be and what we have to do at least 1 week in advance, right? Like someone was just saying the other day, Germans and Japanese, right? They're especially known for their punctuality and perfect schedule and so on, right? So we hear this story about this was one German disciple, because the first preachers who went out of India, they went to England and they also went to Germany. And so there was this one German disciple. We hear he spent time in India. And but we hear, right, that they were doing some type of traveling preaching programs, and the schedule, it wasn't what he was accustomed to, the way that like there would be like sudden changes, or they're suddenly hearing, or we're moving now, and there wasn't warning. And so he made this request to Saraswati Thakur, Nira. No, there's another expression. Let me see if I can find it. What is it's something like Bharavahi, the opposite of Saragrahi, Vaishnava. Let's see if I can find it. I can't find it. I'll have to look later. There's a place where literally it translates as, I think, load carrier. Anyway, I'll look into it. I mean, no doubt those are also helpful terms, but I'm thinking of one particular framework. So anyhow, this German disciple requests Srila Saraswati Thakur, give me 1 week notice. Please tell me. I want to know where the programs will be and what we have to do at least 1 week in advance. Our Guru Maharaj replied, I have received the order only 5 minutes ago, right? So he's meaning like this internal inspiration and direction. Oh, this is what is necessary. This is what needs to be done. That only came to me 5 minutes ago. So how can I inform you a week in advance? Service is not a dead thing. It's a beautiful way to live, right? This type of freeness. Our lives would be so much happier, actually, if we could live like that. If you think about it, at least in my own case, like how much mental energy do we lose, right? Because things didn't go the way we planned. You could say like all of our problems come down to that. The environment is colliding with our own conception of how things should be, right? We're not open to true vision, proper conception of things. Once a sannyasi left the service engagement he had been ordered to do by our Gurudev and went to see Bhaji Narayan, but he was punished by our Gurudev for this. So even going to tour the holy places may be a punishable action in the higher plane of service. Without sadhu sangha, we cannot connect with the higher level. Even our taking of the name may not be the real name, Vaikuntha Nam. There is a saying amongst the Sahajiyas, if Gurudev asks for a glass of water, but I am engaged in chanting the name, then what am I to do? So they're more attached to this, kind of ritualistic conception, right? The name is everything, right? But think of it in this way. What is the name? The name is Krishna. The name is non-different from Krishna. What is most beloved to Krishna? His devotees. So in other words, to serve the Vaishnava, to offer them a glass of water, that is to please the holy name, non-different from Krishna. to serve the devotees of Krishna. That is higher than serving Krishna himself. Right? So our conception is just the opposite. Tar madhye sarva shreshta nam sankirtan. Amongst all the practices of devotion, chanting the name is the best. So am I to reply, Gurudev, I am engaged in chanting the name. This is self-deception. The importance, the degree, the urgency should always be considered. Service in a higher degree is present in Gurudev. By serving him, I can partake of a higher quality of kirtan that can improve the quality of my service. We must try to acquire a serving attitude. That is the universal necessity, service. But service presupposes surrender, and surrender presupposes sadhu sangha. I'm going to read that one more time. We must try to acquire a serving attitude. That is the universal necessity, service. But service presupposes surrender, and surrender presupposes sadhu sangha. Krishna bhakti janma mool hoi sadhu sangha. Devotion to Krishna originates from the association of the sadhu. We must be thankful to that positive source. The Lord is there, but through his agency, he is coming. So his agent should be welcomed and dealt with properly. Whatever we can collect, all our energy, we should devote towards them. So service is everything, but in order to do real service, there must be surrender, and in order for there to be surrender, there must be sadhu sangha. It's a pretty deep line there to meditate on. I'm remembering now this one line of Śrī Śrī Maharaj. Maybe it's in that chapter that we read from earlier, Sermons 3, where he says to clean the stool of the Vaishnava, that may fetch more value than even serving the deity in some circumstances. Right? There's some immediate need to serve the Vaishnava in some way, then whatever it may be, that is more living, right? More immediate, more vital than to serve the deity. We hear of this one occasion when Śrī Śrī Maharaj was first visiting the Gaudiya Math, and he was, kind of like still inquiring and, sussing things out and seeing what their conception is. And was it Śrī Śrī Maharaj, or was he witnessed someone else? Oh, I can't remember, but I think it was Śrī Śrī Maharaj himself. I can't remember. But first there was a question about the deity, or what is the deity, what material is the deity made of, right? And the pujari, right, he's trained in the proper conception. Is the deity made of wood or stone? And the pujari, he's trained in the proper conception. He says, no, we're not thinking like that the deity is made of some material object. So, but the deity is Satchit Ananda Vigraha. It is the pure spiritual form of the Lord, truth, consciousness, and joy. And then I believe it was Śrī Śrī Maharaj. I think he was like kind of examining the conception of the devotees there. So then Śrī Śrī Maharaj says, oh, you have such a high conception of the deity. And then he said, so then why isn't it that everyone is here with the deity? Why is everyone with your guru, right? All the disciples at that time were having darshan of Srila Saraswati Thakur in his room. So why is it that everyone is with your guru, and if the Supreme Lord himself is personally present, why isn't everybody here? And then the Pujari answered, oh, there is another Mahaprabhu who's living in the heart of our guru, and that Mahaprabhu is even higher. Very beautiful. Huh? That Lord who lives in the heart of my guru is even higher than this deity in front, right? Because the connection of the Vaishnava, the loving relationship that the Vaishnava has with the Lord, that is also there. So that the Lord is more present. The Lord is more present in the heart of his devotee than he is in his deity form, right? So in other words, right, to serve the Param Vaishnava, that is to serve the Lord, right? That is the highest connection that we can have in our lives. Okay, well, we're just about at the end of our time, and we've come to the end of Śrīla Sridhar Maharaj's and you know, I really want to honor what Bimal Krishna Prabhu brought up last week in our last meeting, you know, that, you know, all of these commentaries are so precious and there's so much to be had. I'm kind of, you know, just focusing on Śrīla Sridhar Maharaj's for the purpose of having a more focused discussion, because it's a lot to go through, you know. But definitely it's you know, it's worth going through all of these in your own time. There, you know, these are beautiful verse explanations from Bhaktivinoda Thakur and also from Saraswati Thakur. So these are very, very valuable for us. Okay, well, anyone want to add anything before we close for today? Bimal Krishna Prabhu, anything you'd like to share? Tungaraj is saying Asaragrahi. Yeah, you could say that, but there is another, I think it's Bharavahi. I think it's Bharavahi. I'll try to find it. But Bimal Prabhu, please share some words of inspiration.
Dandavat Vishaka, Dandavat to all the devotees. I mean, I have like thoughts that go throughout the whole stream, so I try to express all of that at the end, so it might sound like a big jumbled mess. But anyway,
Wait,
just
sorry,
know this.
can you say that again? I missed the first part of your sentence.
Oh, I'm just rambling, really. I just said that throughout the stream, I have a lot of thoughts that come through my mind. So when I try to express those at the end, it just sounds about like that, a big jumbled mess. But anyway, you can take the little parts that make sense. But no, a lot of thoughts I have. I mean, association. One of the things that came to my mind was Srila Sridhar Maharaj he was speaking with the devotees, and he was talking about, he is calling them head bugs. He goes, yes, the head bugs, they can be very near, you know. Association doesn't mean just being near, because I mean the bugs are on the devotee, but, or, you know, possibly, or whoever it may be, but they're not getting that proper association. But that was one thing I was thinking of. But I think all of us in our practicing lives, we've probably all had a moment where we've, you know, had a hard time. I mean, with service, we all know when you start performing service, it can be difficult, and a lot of things, when we're being cleaned, you know, a lot of dirt can come up, and those things we have to deal with. And I can think of a few times in my own life where, you know, I've had my own struggles. One day I was sitting in front of Srila Gurudev in Santa Cruz, and there was a new devotee that was there at the festival. And I was kind of sitting there wondering kind of what's my purpose, what's my seva type of thing, and just, you know, going through whatever I was going through. But another devotee came, and he was a new devotee, but he came and kind of expressed his heart and his mind to me. And, you know, I was able to talk to him. And I think when we have these like sincere conversations and they're coming from the heart, like we can be sharing and trying to help another person, but also the answers that we receive or that we're giving are also for ourselves a lot too, you know, when we're open that way and we're sharing. And that devotee, you know, later on, not saying anything was from my doing, but that devotee told me later on that was kind of a catalyst in his devotional life. So we're trying to be vessels and kind of instruments in service, and even in that association, you know, we're also doing that. So we don't know, it's not coming from myself, but like when we're sincere, then things can flow through us and affect people in a positive way. So that was what I've had. Another thought, I mean, myself
No,
associating with
wait.
a higher devotee.
Can I just pause you there? So you're relating this to Guyam Akyati Prichati, right? Opening our hearts, sharing our hearts with the Vaishnavas. Yeah, that's a
Yes.
very nice angle, actually, in a kind of more kind of like simple and accessible way of applying this verse. We can say like, be there for one another, right? And we don't know how that can affect others and make important changes for the better in their spiritual lives. Yeah, thank you, Vima. That's a very beautiful share. And sorry, please carry on.
I just feel like that's practical, right? Like it has to
Yeah,
be practical.
yeah,
It has to, we have
right.
to be able to, because we all have our minds and we all have our faults. And like, if we don't ever discuss those things or make that a real thing, it's just imaginary, you know, but like, these are real things that can affect us. And we can't just, like you're saying, like renunciation, we can't just falsely suppress these things and pretend they'll go away. We have to work through them. And that's part of spiritual practice, is trying to overcome these things. But another time associating with someone who's higher than yourself, I was feeling some intense desire to receive second initiation from Srila Gurudev, because at the time when I was in Navadvip, he was in Calcutta, and I know you remember those times where his health wasn't always the best. So all the devotees go and get ready for the festivals in Navadvip, but I really had a strong desire to receive second initiation from Srila Gurudev before, you know, I'm like, I don't know when he's going to leave his body or anything else. So that was a strong desire. But I was speaking to Shwarnangi Didi up in the Govinda Kund guest house, and she was telling me, she said, you know, Bimal Prabhu, she's like, sometimes when we have a desire or something, it's nice to go down and pray to Srila Guru Maharaj. And some of you might have heard this story before. I sometimes tell it because anyway, so I go down there, and as sincere as I can be, I'm offering prayers to Guru Maharaj at the Samadhi Mandir, and about receiving initiation and that connection, and trying to serve Gurudev. And as soon as I got up and walked from the Samadhi Mandir, I walked over to the Nat Mandir, and I stepped up on there, and your sister Ashapurna came through the front doors, and she said, Bimal Krishna, she says, tomorrow you're going to receive initiation from Srila Gurudev.
Wow.
So I mean, receiving something, like having that association with her inspiration and guiding me in that way, I went down, and you could see this connection and a flow, and just how beautiful it is. So I'm also thinking of you. When I went to Navadvip for my first time, we got there in the dark, and I don't remember, I know there were other devotees as we got out of the vehicles, but you were the first person I remember. We came into the mott, and it was dark, and you came up, and I remember meeting you for the first time, and you're the first person I actually remember meeting in Navadvip Dham, and
Wow.
you find our rooms. And so
What an
I'm
honor.
I have to express my joy in seeing so many familiar faces in the Dham, and just like it brings so much joy to my heart.
Oh,
Overwhelmed, but my Dandavats to you all.
oh, Bimal Krishna Prabhu, we appreciate your heartfelt shares and revelation very much. And I really appreciate how you really brought these principles home and, made them feel more accessible for how we can apply in our daily lives. And very, very nice, very heart-touching, very practical. As you said, at the end of the day, we got to see how these things are practical, That's what they always tell me in Japan, because they're very practical people. Like he give a whole class about all these wonderful things, and it's like, okay, so what do we do? How do we like bring this to our homes? Like when we get home from work, like how do we translate this? So thank you, Bima, thank you very much. We're joined here by Nanda Krishna here. Any revelation you want to share in this regard?
I'm just so happy to see all the devotees and to catch some small piece, some small drops of nectar sitting here.
Nanda Krishna is very busy in a wonderful project here, some renovation in Srila Gurudev's original house. Some of you will remember inside of the museum, because Gurudev built the museum around that house, because Gurudev didn't like to cut anything down or knock anything down, you know. Gurudev was all about preservation, right? Didn't like to sell anything, you know. And so he literally, you see in the Prasadam hall, Gurudev built around, there are 3 trees growing through the Prasadam hall. He built around them. And then he also, there's a little house that he lived in for 15 years. And then later, when it came time to build the Centennial Memorial, he built around it, right? You know, that was Srila Gurudev's style. And so now Prabhu's heading up this renovation. There's some, you know, plastering and painting, sanding, and we're gonna put some new pictures, and so it'll be in a more glorious condition. Okay, well, wow, we're really getting on here. So we'll stop here for today. Thank you all so much for your good company. And I'll look forward to our next meeting. Jai Śrī Upadeśāmṛta, Jai Śrīla Gurudev, Jai Vaishnava Vrinda, Harinam Sankirtan, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jai Gaur Premanande. Hari Bol. Have a beautiful week ahead, and see you soon.
Haribol.
Hari Bol.